Across the East River from Manhattan's skyline sits Queensbridge, the largest public housing project in North America. From these hallways emerged one of hip-hop's most revered poets, a quiet kid who turned the noise of his environment into literature. His name is Nasir Jones. The world would come to know him simply as Nas. Nas's story is more than a rise to fame. It is the journey of a young observer who transformed street corners into scripture. Nasir bin Oludara Jones was born on September 14, 1973, in Brooklyn, New York, to Oludara, a jazz and blues musician, and Fanny Ann Jones. His father's horn and vinyl collection opened a world of sound. When the family moved to Queensbridge, Nas stepped into a neighborhood already shaped by poverty, the crack epidemic, and constant police presence. Instead of textbooks, he studied the conversations on the benches. Nas left traditional school in his teens, but his education never stopped. He read about history, religion, and Black consciousness, while older heads schooled him on the realities of the streets. Piece by piece, the shy kid from the projects began building a voice that could carry beyond the buildings that surrounded him. As the 1980s gave way to the 1990s, hip-hop in New York was evolving fast. Rakim was redefining rhyme structure. Cool G Rap was bringing cinematic street detail. And Big Daddy Kane embodied smooth confidence. In Queensbridge, MC Shan, Marley Marl, and the Juice Crew had already proven that voices from these very buildings could reach the world. Nas, now calling himself Nasty Nas, treated these artists like professors. He studied their flows and cadences, then twisted them into his own style. A turning point came when he connected with producer Large Professor.
When Rakim wasn't coming through, Eric was like, yo, Paul, do something with that studio time. And I had met Nas through Fatal, and the Queensbridge is right down the block from Power Place. So so it was like we be in the lab, we be waiting for Rakim for a little while. After a while, it's like, all right, the guard coming from all the way east, he might not make it. All right, so let me start getting on the horn. And Nas was right down the block, so it'd be like, yo, lab is open, bro. What's up?
In 1991, he appeared on Main Source's track. Just a few furious bars, he delivered a verse that shook the underground. Suddenly, serious hip-hop fans, DJs, and writers were asking the same question. Who is this kid from Queensbridge, and when is his album coming? In the early 1990s, Nas began recording what would become one of the most celebrated rap albums in history. Illmatic, backed by a rare all-star production lineup, DJ Premier, Large Professor, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, and LES. 10 tracks, no filler. Each one carefully crafted to capture the atmosphere of his world. On NY State of Mind, he guides listeners through a paranoid maze of staircases, corners, and whispered codes, his voice steady as the scenes grow darker. The song feels less like a performance and more like an unfiltered transmission from the belly of New York City. Track by track, Illmatic builds a portrait of Queensbridge that is both brutally specific and universally human. When Illmatic was released in 1994, critics quickly recognized it as a new standard for East Coast hip-hop. The album did not explode on the charts overnight, but its impact spread quietly, influencing a generation of MCs and producers. Over the years, Illmatic would come to be hailed as one of the greatest rap albums ever recorded.
The record that my guy DJ LES was supposed to bring was the Juicy Fruit record by Mtume. He wound up bringing Yearning for Your Love by the Gap Band, and that wound up being Life's a B with AZ.
After Illmatic, the music industry wanted more from him. Bigger hooks, wider audiences, and videos that could compete with the shiny spectacle of mid-90s rap. It was written, released in 1996, Nas expanded his sound and image, stepping beyond the strictly underground lane that had crowned him a prodigy. The beats grew smoother and more cinematic, and the mafioso-inspired persona emerged, placing him in a world of high-stakes plots and elaborate schemes. Collaborations with artists like Lauryn Hill and the Trackmasters delivered songs that reached radio and music television in a way Illmatic had not. If I Ruled the World, with its blend of optimism and hard realism, introduced him to listeners around the globe who had never walked through Queensbridge. Not everyone approved of the shift. Some early fans accused him of chasing trends, but others saw an artist refusing to repeat himself, testing how far his voice could travel. Around this time, Nas joined with AZ, Foxy Brown, and Nature to form The Firm, but when the project received mixed reviews, critics claimed he was losing his way. The throne in New York was no longer uncontested, and a new rivalry was taking shape. By the turn of the millennium, another MC had risen as a major force claiming New York's crown, Jay-Z from Brooklyn. At first, Nas and Jay-Z navigated the same city with mutual respect and occasional tension. But as both men climbed toward legendary status, subliminal shots in songs and interviews slowly escalated into direct challenges. The conflict reached a boiling point when Jay-Z released Takeover, a track that questioned Nas's career choices and relevance. In record stores, barbershops, and street corners, the consensus for many was that he had been outmatched and overshadowed. Some wondered if his era had quietly ended. Nas answered with Ether, a fierce, unflinching response that shook radio waves and reignited debate across the hip-hop world. The record was more than a diss. It was a reminder of what made him special. Sharp observation, cutting wit, and a willingness to stand his ground. For fans, Ether became a turning point, proof that he was not only still present, but still deadly with the pen. The rivalry divided listeners, but it also sealed both artists into the mythology of hip-hop battles. In time, the hostility cooled. Nas and Jay-Z would share stages and eventually work together, turning what was once a bitter contest into a symbol of growth and mutual respect. But for a moment in the early 2000s, the city was split down the middle, and he used that moment to reclaim his place in the conversation. Behind the public drama, Nas was dealing with deep personal loss. The illness and eventual passing of his mother, Ann Jones, left a wound that shaped his music in profound ways. Grief pushed him toward reflection, and the result was the album God's Son, where pain, faith, and resilience intertwined. On this project, he explored spirituality and mortality more directly, balancing memories of his mother with questions about his own purpose and legacy. The songs moved between vulnerability and defiance, showing an artist who had lived long enough to see the costs of the life he described. Made You Look brought back uncompromising drums and aggressive rhyming, a statement that his raw energy remained intact even as his subject matter expanded. As the 2000s unfolded, he turned his attention to the state of hip-hop and the wider world. On Hip Hop Is Dead, he challenged the direction of the music he helped elevate, sparking debate about commercialization, creativity, and authenticity. His controversial Untitled album confronted race and power in America, pushing into territory that made some listeners uncomfortable and others deeply appreciative. With Distant Relatives, his collaborative project with Damian Marley, he connected Black diasporic experiences across continents, blending rap and reggae into a global meditation on struggle, history, and hope. As hip-hop entered the streaming era, he launched the King's Disease series, a run of albums that sounded both rooted in classic New York rap and in tune with newer generations. The chemistry between rapper and producer, sparked a late career renaissance, earning awards and critical praise, while introducing Nas to younger listeners discovering him for the first time. Off the microphone, he was building a different kind of legacy through strategic investments in technology companies, startups, and various ventures.
You're involved in a lot of technology, right? Like people ask you to invest money, and then you do or you don't invest money. And are you in these meetings, or you have somebody that handles all that for you?
Yeah, we have a firm, Queensbridge Venture Partners, named after my neighborhood.
Right.
And we take meetings, we take pitch meetings.
And are most of the ideas pretty good, or are there terrible ideas that you get?
No, they're mostly good. They're smart people.
He shifted from being just an artist with a brand to a businessman with real equity, and showed how someone from the projects could leverage fame into long-term power and generational wealth. Today, Nas stands as an elder statesman of hip-hop, but not a relic. Artists from multiple eras point to his catalog as a blueprint for lyricism, storytelling, and authenticity. Fans from the Illmatic days stand shoulder to shoulder with teenagers who discovered him on newer projects, all reciting lines that outlived the times they described. His music charts the evolution of hip-hop itself. The boy who once looked out over Queensbridge from a project window grew into a man whose words echo far beyond those bricks, yet he never fully left them behind. As the beats fade and the lights dim, the bridge between where he started and where he stands now is built on rhyme, memory, and vision. For as long as people press play on his albums, the world he documented will remain alive, and Queensbridge will never be silent.